So today we're looking at how to edit text, create our first chapter of our story, and link to our next subpages. So this is the sample code that I grabbed off Schoology, copy and pasted the HTML and the CSS here. We're not using JavaScript, so if you wish, you can just delete that whole file. It just kind of gets in the way at this point. So we got index.html and style.css. We'll be using both. So first things first is I want to just kind of figure out which of these text boxes I actually want to use when I go to narrate my story. So we have a few options. We have like this heading up here, this text box here with a smaller H2 tag, smaller text there if we want it. I might throw in some text that displays on top of my banner image. It says something like chapter 1, or it could be the introduction, or who knows what. I'm going to go with kind of the example I did yesterday. Into the Woods is going to be the title of chapter 1 here. So if I run my code, that text has now changed here. Then I need to decide how many of these headings and subheadings and paragraphs do I need. That's a little bit further down here. Chapter title, I might utilize again and say chapter 1 up top. And then I think I'm just going to use one of the paragraph tags, so I can therefore eliminate the rest of these. Easy enough to bring them back too if I decide that I want some more headings or paragraphs. That's like the first day of class, we were messing around with paragraph tags and headings. So this is where I'd start hammering out my story. One dark night, you hear a mysterious sound deep in the woods. You set out from your home, but you can only carry one item. Will you choose a flashlight or some matches? I'm presenting my first choice at the end of this paragraph here. I would expect you maybe type a little bit more than that, but in reality, the story piece is just kind of a means to an end to create choices and to create subpages. So you be as creative as you want, but eventually probably present us with an option at the end of your chapter. Or it could just be a linear path at this point. Maybe I don't present them with a choice. Maybe I just tell them to go on to the next page and present them with one link to the next page. Who knows? Then from there, I need to concern myself with this menu over here. Right now I've got 5 links set up. Sounds like I only need 2 probably. Flashlight or some matches. So those changes actually take place in this nav list, unordered list item inside of div class nav container. So this is the nav container, and this is the nav list. Links are list item tags technically. The anchor tag is the list itself. href is the outward going link. And this hashtag here is going to be where we're going to drop the code that links to our subpage. Right now, it's just a placeholder. That hashtag is a placeholder. So we don't have anywhere to go yet. So that's our next job, is to create some subpages. That happens in the Files tab over here. So we're not going to add a folder, but we're going to add some different files. And it's worth kind of pausing for a second and considering what would be a good naming system for your subpages. So index.html, that's a pretty typical thing you'd see across all web design as kind of your home page. So I'm going to leave that as it is. But when I add this new file, I can think of what makes sense for my next page titles. So maybe this would be like chapter 2, because I'm moving on to chapter 2, but the choice I've made, maybe I'll denote with an underscore So chapter 2 _ flashlight might be my next page, or one of the pages that they could go to. And I have to denote that it's an HTML file, .html. Okay, and then I'm going to create another file, chapter 2 matches.html. So the name itself doesn't truly matter. I could call this potatoes for all that the code cares, but it sure helps you and your brain to hopefully stay organized if you come up with like a decent naming system. So right now these files have nothing in them. We'll fix that in a moment. But I can go ahead and link to them even though they have nothing in them yet. So I'm going back to my nav list here. First list item, anchor tag href equals. Now I just type out the name of the choices, flashlight.html. And then I would want to change the text itself here to display the option for my user, flash, or I could say maybe grab a flashlight. Remember, this black text is what's going to display on the page. So if I run that, here's grab a flashlight and a link that would take me to that page. Second choice will be grab a box of matches. And I suppose I'll capitalize that just to make it look nice. Grab a box of matches. And hashtag can now be replaced with chapter 2 matches.html. The last three list items I don't need because I only presented them with two choices. Now when I run my code, I've got two choices here that take me to, at the moment, blank pages, but they should function, so we should test that out here. So we choose a flashlight or some matches. I'd grab I spelled flashlight wrong. I'll have to fix that. A flashlight. But it does function. It takes me to this subpage here, which is denoted by this backslash and then the name of my HTML file. Last piece is adding some code to these pages so that they actually look like something. Right now they got nothing. So easiest thing to do from here would just be to copy the structure of your index file, your index.html, copy all that, and drop it into both subpages here. Boom, boom. So now when we run our site and we go to the subpage, of course, right now it looks exactly the same as our home page, but of course that will be changed by us in the code. So then we would go to, say, chapter 2 flashlight.html. And at this point, we can ignore most of the stuff, except maybe we would change like the title of our page, what displays in the address bar. Maybe it would say chapter 2. My heading here would maybe say chapter 2. And who knows what the next chapter would be called, but it's always good to have a mysterious smell. And then I would go ahead and start typing the next piece of my story down here in this paragraph area. So you grab a flashlight and walk deeper into the woods. ... Who knows what else I'd say there. This would be chapter 2. And eventually I'd present my people with, my readers with a choice. So maybe the choice is to walk towards the smell or run away or something like that. And then I would go ahead and change my choices here. Run or walk towards. Smell. My other choice would be to run away. I would, of course, want to change these sub pages to something else. So I'm going essentially through the exact same process again, just a little bit faster this time here. So this would be now on to chapter 3. My choices here would be to walk to smell, maybe, is what I'd call my page, just so that it makes sense later. Walk to smell. And chapter 3, what did I say? Run away from smell.html. So I was working on this chapter 2 page. So now I have some links where these could actually go to. Walk towards the smell would be chapter 3. So I'm creating the link now. Walk to smell.html. And this would be the chapter 3. Run away from smell.html. And I believe everything else is about ready to go. So what I find to be a bit annoying is REPL will only run kind of my home page here, like my index file seems to be the only one that displays in this area here, unless you can find a way to force it to display the page you're working on. I haven't figured that piece out, so slight annoyance there, but if I open in a new tab, I've noticed it's kind of good anyways to test your links and make sure that they actually function. So here's my chapter 2. And then I now have these new choices set up that would take me to right now blank pages with no HTML on them. But I can see that these sub pages are functioning. Then I would just continue to repeat that process until I've finished my story, or until I finish my story, I guess is the only option there. So the main requirement for this project, bare minimum, you need at least 10 branching pathways, HTML files set up. So I'm already halfway there. I've got 5, branching paths going that the links function, and I present my user with choices, and those choices are presented in like a nav bar. If you're working with a partner and you're still committed to doing that, the requirements double. You would need 20 HTML pages and 1 CSS page linking them all, which I didn't necessarily mention explicitly, but now I will. But all of these HTML pages, if you copy and paste the code, they are all linked to style.css. So that's why they all carry forth the same overall look and feel and all the imagery and things of that nature. So that's kind of, a big step and a large part of what this assignment is, kind of wrapped up there in, what was that, a 10-minute clip. Next time we'll talk about how to source unique images onto each page. That'll be one of the next requirements, or pretty much the only other requirement for this project, is to create images for each of your banners on each subpage that are unique, that look different from one another. And that requires a little bit of trickery in CSS, but it's really not too bad. So I'm going to stop